with former NFL coach Kay Stevenson, who won a championship with the World League, has been in a number of spring leagues and bringing us the biggest interviews from guys like, well, Oliver Luck, the commissioner, giving his State of the Union address earlier this month, and then also an opportunity to sit down with Jerry Glanville and maybe helping out. You know, they'd been 0-3, and then they shut out their opponent after he comes on the air. But we have a number of big interviews, and I know, Coach, the opportunity to sit down with one of the head coaches. There's only 8 of them out there right now, the LA Wildcats, and Winston Moss, who was a former player himself and now serving as the head coach and general manager of the LA Wildcats out there on the West Coast, having a chance to sit down. Big interview coming up, and always looking forward to the biggest things in the XFL as we move to Week 5.
Yeah, and Winston Moss was a heck of a player. Played quite a few years, 3 different teams, and then has coached for a long time. I tell you, 1998, 20 years he's been coaching in the National Football League. And for people in this area, he coached for quite a few years, about 4 or 5 years at New Orleans with the Saints. And, in fact, with Jim Haslett. He was on Jim's staff over there with the Saints. So, but he's done a good job out there. He really has instilled some discipline in that team, and great to talk to him.
Well, and they're a team right now. They're 1-3, but they've had a lot of close games. Based on the app, they gave me the DC Defenders. That you pick, and it just rotates 8 teams. That's my team. They beat them. But right now, it's too early to decide. Everybody's still in the hunt. I think we've seen it, and they've got a big game coming up this week as they're taking on the matchup right there with the Tampa Bay Vipers. So 2 1-3 teams should be fun. Josh Johnson, a veteran quarterback, and Winston Moss having a chance to sit down with Coach Kay Stevenson, with JP and the crew as we get set for another big week of the XFL, bringing you the head coach interview of the LA Wildcats, Winston Moss.
First, where is your home? Where is your hometown? Where were you from?
I was born and raised in Miami, Florida.
Okay. Miami.
Moved over to Tampa, moved over to L.A., Seattle, New Orleans, Green Bay, and I'm in L.A. But I'm born and raised in Miami, Florida.
Okay. Well, Coach, the league itself is off, I think, to a good start. There's a quality product there. There's some quality players. Now, you've been around an awful lot of good players. And what's your assessment of the level of play that you're getting in the XFL?
We said it in the off season. We said it during the mini camp and training camp. We're going to shock a lot of people about the quality of play, the competitiveness, the coaching, and you're seeing exactly that. There's some great talent in this league. There's some great coaching in this league, and the guys are having a lot of fun doing it.
I agree with you totally. And of course I'm pulling for you all the way.
Yep.
Now you've got quarterback play is always going to be something of contention, and it has to be consistent to give you an overall good product. I know you got Josh Johnson. He's got a lot of experience. And he's gonna just get better and better. There's no question about that. The more he gets accustomed to it, but overall,
Josh has been an absolute great leader. He's a leader of men. He's taking control of this offense. Him and Norm has developed into a great relationship. He has relationships with all of his receivers, running backs, O-line. He really gets those guys on the same page. And so he's looking to improve every week. He works through the process. He's a hard worker. He got hurt in training camp, and they had to keep telling him to slow down and just get healthy in a moderate way or in a methodical way. But that guy has a lot of heart. He has a lot of smarts. And so he's going to get better every single week, just like he said.
Coach, who would you say are a couple of your top young? When I say young people, I'm primarily maybe first time in pro football type kids that maybe one or two on defense and one or two on offense?
Well, Spruce has definitely been a monster. He has definitely been a superstar player for us thus far. We have Storm Norton, our offensive lineman. He's been a standout. Our back situation is backed by committee, but Martez Carter, who showed out versus DC a couple of weeks ago, he's injured right now, but he is an up-and-coming. He can be a rising star in this league and move on. And on the defensive side of the ball, we got some good players there as well. Ahmad Dixon is nothing but an instinctive baller. Jack Tacho is a guy that can set the defense straight, get the secondary line. He's a good player. Our corners have been playing well. Our linebackers are getting better every week. Our D-line is fighting as hard as they can. Now, the thing that's going on with us is that teams are getting the ball out so fast versus us that the fact that their production has been in a limited form, but you give us 3+ seconds, the quarterback goes down. But in our self-scout, since I've been taking over this defense, the quarterbacks, like for example, Houston, they were getting the ball out 2.1 seconds, 2 point. Later on, moving along the season, we've been in like a 2.4, 2.5 range. So guys are getting the ball out quick. We got to. They understand that we're showing them different looks and creating situations where they know they need to get that ball out fast.
Couldn't agree with you more. And I worked with offense for a number of years, but you know you got Norm Chow there as offensive coordinator. Yeah, and you were right when you said there's some quality coaching around that league. I tell you that. And Norm, of course, he's been around everywhere, and does a great job. But you know, last week, let's see. Now you gotta warn you here. You're going to play Tampa Bay Vipers this week, this Sunday, and they got Jared Glanville down there now, and he's hired Elvis Presley as his defensive coach. So you beware, they're sharp.
And so so he has to. Jared Glanville is a pressure guy, and he brings a shitload of pressure. He wants penetration. He wants to have the offense react to him instead of the other way around. And so I think Norm has put a great plan together, and we'll just have to go out and execute it.
Yep.
But I think Norm has put together a great plan.
We're all familiar with Jerry's Grits Blitz going back to Atlanta. Jerry worked for me 1 year in Buffalo, so I'm very familiar with that, and I'm familiar with his attraction to Elvis Presley. So,
his style of play,
Yep.
Yep.
Well, listen, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I know you're on a tight schedule. I'm not going to keep you. Maybe later on in the season, if you have another 8 or 10 minutes, we can get back to you and get an assessment. But I appreciate your time, and good luck to you.
No problem. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Well, there he is right there, Winston Moss, the head coach of the L.A. squad right now. The Wildcats getting set to go for a game. It's 8 o'clock. It's going to be an 8 o'clock 8 o'clock Central Time game right there to top off on Sunday, end the week. Tampa Bay is getting a lot of these let's end the week kind of games going on right now. But it should be a fun one to watch. You got two teams making a trip all the way across the country to play each other when it comes to Tampa having to go to L.A. And, Coach, it should be when you have two teams at 1-3 that both have shown signs that they can play with anyone in the league, it always makes for more intrigue because they know right now they got to work extra hard to be back up there because one of these teams has fallen to 1-4. And if you look at a team like the Houston Roughnecks who are at home against a Seattle team that could be moving to 5-0, you don't want to get any more space and separation. This should be a fun week to watch.
Well, it should be. And listen, this is already becoming a must-win. here for those 1-3, 1-4 teams. Only 10 games of the season. It's virtually mid-season, so you gotta turn it on right now. I mean, you're looking at some teams that are probably going to have to win every ball game left, so it's crucial.
Yeah, my Seattle Dragons apparently, according to the app, is they have to win it, and you get your hands full with it. I know we'll talk more about our predictions and stuff, but I do want to mention too the XFL named their star of the week this week, and it was Jordan Ta'amu, the St. Louis Battlehawks quarterback, who was 20 of 27 for 264 yards, had added 63 yards rushing with a touchdown. One thing to remember: this is a guy in Jordan Ta'amu who was kind of almost shunned when we looked at the quarterbacks on the list. And this is a guy that's second in the XFL in passing yards and fifth in rushing. And this is, Coach, this is why the XFL was created to, it's pleasure for us to watch because it's more football in the spring when we don't have it. But it's to give these guys an opportunity to get reps and opportunities that they would not get if they were on a practice squad or just in general to go out and compete and to show their worth. And Jordan Ta'amu is a guy that has taken full advantage of this.
Well, he is a good example, and there are going to be more coming along. In fact, I predict that over the next 2 to 3 years, you will see at least 2 quarterbacks rise out of this league and become good NFL quarterbacks. Now, that's over a couple of years, and they're probably not playing right now as of this point. At this point, but they will be pretty soon. So listen. There's a lot of good football played here. There are a lot of good players out there. And as this relates to other football, college in particular, it's amazing how people would be misled by thinking or comparing this to college football and what they might say might surprise you. I tell you, with a more consistent quarterback play from this league, college football would be even better. The best college football would be maybe a half step below this.
And there's going to be some quarterbacks, too, towards the end of their careers that might look at it. For instance, he's not going to do it now. It's too late. But 2 or 3 years down the road, a Peyton Manning, or not a Peyton Manning, but an Eli Manning that has been sort of they've made it clear without his retirement that he's done. I mean, he didn't really retire. Let's be honest. If they would have said, we're going to put the resources, we're going to pay you 1 more year, and you're going to be the starter, that was a handshake. Daniel Jones was brought in to learn under him and to be the starter going forward for the New York Giants. But if a guy like that maybe he's 38 years old, that says, you know what, I still want to play football for a year, might go to an XFL. And like I said, I don't expect that to happen with Eli Manning. I'm talking about a guy like that down the road as this league grows. We might get a couple of those big borderline Hall of Fame names that might play a year or two for the XFL and give it a shot to help a team win a title. Just like sort of Bob Stoops doing to be a head coach in the league, you might get a quarterback to do that as well.
Yeah, sure.
When we come back, we're going to talk some more of the matchups this week. Seattle at Houston. Houston, the Roughnecks, the only undefeated team left. That'll kick things off on Saturday at 1 o'clock. Then New York at Dallas, St. Louis at D.C., and ending the night with Tampa and L.A. 4 big games once again, and more on the line as we get to midseason after this week, halfway through the XFL inaugural year.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
There's only one place in town for the lowest prices and greatest selection of firearms. Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range. Visit our fully stocked Gun Pro shop for new and used firearms, accessories, and ammunition. Check out the Indoor Shooting Range. We offer rentals on guns, including fully automatic machine guns and silencers. Ladies, this is the safe place to learn how to use a gun. Plus, Tuesday is Ladies' Day. Women shoot for half price all day. The best place to buy firearms in Pensacola. Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range, Highway 29 in Car City.
The latest sports news is at ESPNpensacola.com and on Facebook at ESPN Pensacola. Plus, watch Chad Brillante, Coach K, and Sports Call live on our exclusive YouTube channel, ESPN Pensacola 1330. The teams, the games, the fans, the local talk. This is ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
And welcome back to Inside the XFL right here on Talk Football with Coach K on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM, played across 4 states here in the South, and having some fun each and every week with the biggest interviews. Former Green Bay Packer and a coach that's been around the NFL for a long time, Winston Moss, who's now the head coach and general manager of the LA Wildcats, kind enough to make time for us here today. And you can tell he's a football player. Yeah, that's what he does. I mean, you can tell when a guy lives and breathes it. That's what he is. He doesn't get straight to the point, but he's a football player.
Well, he is. And he was a good football player when he played, and he's been a good coach. Talking with Jim Haslett, Jim has a lot of good things to say about him. So good coach.
They got big game coming up here against Tampa. Let's start off with the games this week. Seattle against the Houston Roughnecks. Houston bringing back, every time I look at that, I just think Oilers. They have the same exact logo. They brought it back to the city. But
good old days.
Yeah. Ask Frank Reich about that, though. But Seattle at Houston, though, in this matchup, Coach, you've got a team in Houston that's undefeated. They last week they were given Dallas so many opportunities to win that game, and they did not. But Seattle's a team that has showed their ups and downs. Their quarterback situation has been tough. Houston, the guy that really has been the MVP so far of the league has been P.J. Walker. But we also have to be truthful with the reality of, can this last? Because, I mean, we always have stories. Ryan Fitzpatrick was wearing a bunch of jumpsuits and thought he was the MVP of the league a couple years ago for Tampa because he had 3 good weeks. And then he wasn't on Tampa the next year. Sometimes you realize that things like this aren't going to last forever unless you're one of those consistent elite players that we know your name. Maybe he can, maybe he can't, but just because P.J. Walker and them are sitting here at 4-0 doesn't mean that this game's over by any stretch of the imagination.
Oh, no, absolutely not. Now, keep in mind, that's the run and shoot. If you're not familiar with that, I guess you got to be able to remember back about 10, 12, 15 years to the when that was really a popular offense, and people were using it. You got to go back longer than that, really. Back to Jack Pardee allowing it to come into the National Football League, and anyway, long story short, the offense is very, very conducive to short completions and high ratings for quarterbacks. Move the football, move the chains, but people have caught up with it at times. Now they haven't yet in this league, but they will, and I think at that point, I think it'll still be productive, but it will not be as productive as it is right now. But anyway, they're doing a good job. June Jones is doing a good job. Quarterback's playing exceptionally well. In fact, he was interesting story about him. He was recommended by the commissioner through his son, the great quarterback. So that's an interesting story. But anyway, you're right, and we'll just have to say I would take Houston, though. Long story short, you got to take Houston in this ball game.
Well, and right now within the league, you might have heard of something. It's been out there. I think I saw one maybe meme or a social media post on it. It's called the coronavirus, and apparently there was a guy at the Seattle game last week that had it, and the XFL has taken the best stance yet. They said, "We're fine. We're moving on. We're playing football." Which is like, thank you. You know what? Because at this point, it's happening around us. Go on with your daily life and enjoy it. Be aware, but go on. And the XFL, they just continue from a standpoint. It goes back to the top, to Oliver Luck. But they keep doing things that you're thinking, but other people aren't. Chicago State basketball program yesterday actually canceled their trip out to the West Coast for their tournament because they were afraid that they would bring it back. Chicago State, their organization, obviously can learn a thing or two. But Seattle, they're making the trip. Everything's fine. I know it's more of an impact out there and a crisis in the Seattle area compared. Nobody's caring about it. And frankly, that's all the time we're going to spend on that. Looking at the matchup with the New York Guardians and the Dallas Renegade, this is a matchup where the Guardians are still trying to figure out their offense. Former quarterback in Luis Perez, who's part of Texas A&M Commerce. I'm not going to take credit for knowing that. That was JP. But he was the quarterback when UWF played them in that national title game. It just goes to show you the impact and the presence of what Division II athletes that UWF went against to win a national title can play for. They're now starters in the XFL. But, Coach, we're not too big fans of New York, not really because of anyone outside of Matt McGloin opening his mouth. But they're sitting right now as a 7.5-point underdog in this matchup. It's a 4 o'clock kickoff on Saturday. Does Bob Stoops, Hal Mummy's team, get back on track as they take on a New York team that's trying to figure it out offensively?
Yeah, I have to think that I have to give Stoops, Coach Stoops, quite a bit of credit here. I think he'll do a great job defensively, game planning, and listen, Dallas is a good organization. I think I just get the feel that they're a well-organized football team. They've had a couple of bad breaks. I know the 4 turnovers last week. Other than that, they were in complete control of that football game against Houston, a good football team. So I'm going to give the edge to Dallas.
Well, another thing to remember is Landry Jones is out for 2 weeks now. Philip Nelson, the hand model, steps in. We watched him, we watched him in week 1, and he didn't do bad, but that offense is a completely different offense. But I say this, that I think they'll be okay against the Guardians. Look, the Guardians, if anything, pride themselves on defense. I think offensively they've struggled. Luis Perez is a nice spark for them, but he only threw for 150 yards. I mean, they're not a big play offense. They grind it out. They have to, and they're going to have to rely on their defense big time. Now, with Dallas, you look at Cameron Artis-Payne, Lance Dunbar, those guys running the football, I think are going to struggle a little bit. They're going to put some pressure. I believe that, look, the Guardians are going to load the box against them, and they're going to force Philip Nelson to beat them. The question it comes down, I believe it's a low-scoring game. I'm not sure what the over-under is on it, but I believe it's a low-scoring game.
It's the lowest over-under of the week, 37 points.
Yeah.
There's a good point. And therein, you've got to put a lot of credence in Stoops.
Well, in week 1, Philip Nelson could not complete those deep passes. All he could do was check downs. If that's the case, the Guardians might be able to upset him. I still don't know if offensively they'll be able to get enough because the defense for the Renegades is really good. They've done a great job. Coach, I agree with you. Look, this is a well-put-together team. You hate it for Landry Jones because we like seeing him out there. He struggled a little bit, but it's a guy that was going to get better, and the league needs him out there. The Renegades need him out there. Of course, Hal Mummy last week breaking his leg and continuing to coach. That's going to be interesting. He will be in the booth, just everybody out there on Hal Mummy Watch letting you know. But I think the Renegades come out of this, but I do think it's a lot closer than what people think.
This is going to be a game where I'm looking at it right now. Based on the 2 leaders in the XFL right now in sacks are both from the Guardians. Offensively, they don't have anyone in the top 10 in any of the. So what you have here is they know they rely on their defense. With Walker and Owens coming around the outside, these guys both are averaging about a sack a game. And you're going up against a team that has a guy that, frankly, should be taking Instagram shots at pictures, really shouldn't be starting. He's only there because Landry Jones is hurt. And Landry's had his own problems. So I think this is a game that even though Dallas is expected to win, 7.5 points is too much. I can see New York winning this outright based on Dallas hasn't figured things out offensively right now, and that can be scary when you have a good pass rush. If you have a bad quarterback against a good pass rush, that usually leads to a tough time. But who knows with this league right now?
That's a good point. That's a good point. And 7.5 points is, quite frankly, is too much.
That is too much based on a backup quarterback. If Jones was here, I would give him the edge. He would rebound, and I think he's playing the NFL. Going on to the games on Sunday, the St. Louis Battlehawks will take on the D.C. Defenders. Now, D.C.'s trying to figure out they're the only team at home this week that is an underdog. But based on the last 3 games, shouldn't shock anybody. D.C. right now sitting there at 2-2 after winning the first 2 games. The second 2 games have been bad. They've been outscored by their opponents now in those matchups 54-9. Looking at this matchup, though, St. Louis is a team playing with a lot of pride, but they also did those at home. Now they go to the road. Coach, it's a 2 o'clock kickoff on Sunday, and St. Louis, the Battlehawks, come in as a 5-point favorite at D.C.
I'll make this short. I'm going to take St. Louis all the way.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, Cardell Jones has struggled. He's thrown 6 interceptions lately. St. Louis is on a hot streak. I don't think it matters that it's at D.C. St. Louis with Jordan Ta'amu and everybody. Everything seems to be coming together for that team. So give me the Battlehawks.
Yeah, frankly, right now, I know it's early, and they're not right now it's the Houston Roughnecks with the best record. But if I'm taking a team to win the first XFL title, I just like everything happening in St. Louis. I like that the aura, the passion, the team is playing with an energy. They all are, but it feels like they want it a little bit more in the story about being the only team without an NFL team in their own backyard as well. I like that. I like what's happening there. And right now, currently, I would take St. Louis as well. Looking at our final game of the week, the Tampa Bay Vipers at the LA Wildcats. Just got finished talking with Winston Moss, the head coach of the LA squad, and Tampa last week with Jerry Glanville, the defense coordinator. Coach, the LA Wildcats are a 3.5-point favorite at home. Now, this is a Sunday night game. It's later. You're going to be traveling all the way across the coast. They should be prepared by this time, though, obviously. It's a game between 2 teams that are both 1-3, but both showed that they can go out there and they can compete with anyone, as LA won a game against the squad out in D.C. by 20 2 weeks ago, and Tampa was able to go out and win by 25 last week. Coach, who do you like in this matchup, Tampa versus L.A.?
Well, last week Tampa threw a shutout. So defensively, and I think they're going to build on that, they're going to be very, very tough to beat. But they're playing, I think a 3-point swing in this ball game is about what you'd look at for home field advantage. I got to give the home team the edge in this ball game. LA wins it.
I'm going to go the other direction, and I understand. Look at this; we've seen this happen already this year. The team that goes to the other coast, how this works out for Tampa. Though DC runs a similar offense when they want to throw the football. The LA doesn't run the football very well. Well, DC doesn't either. DC wants to throw the football. So does LA. Josh Johnson. That's the guy right there. It's going to make or break this game. I'm going to take the Vipers because I'm going to believe in that grits blitz, Coach, with Elvis Presley back there.
I'm going to go with L.A. I think at home they play as a different team, and I think they're able to go out here and win this one at home and get the victory in a close matchup. Should be the best game of the week to me, and with the worst records. Guys, enjoyed it today, and Coach, always the best.
You bet.
All right, for Coach K. Stevenson, for JP, I'm Chad Brillante. This has been Inside the XFL every Monday and Friday with the biggest news from the XFL.
This is ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM and 99.1 FM, the only local station that talks sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.